The Middle East sits at the center of global trade, controlling the primary crossroads between Europe, Asia, and Africa. Because of this geography, the region possesses the structural potential to be one of the most prosperous hubs on Earth. Yet, despite these advantages, the modern history of the region is characterized by economic stagnation, persistent conflict, and the rise of authoritarian regimes. Many attribute this instability to ancient religious hatreds, suggesting the violence is an inevitable result of cultural friction. But the root of these modern crises isn't found in ancient history. It began a century ago with the collapse of the Ottoman Empire and the massive geopolitical vacuum it left behind. The region was left with a series of structural vulnerabilities created when its ruling empire failed to adapt its economy and bureaucracy to the modern era. To understand that collapse, we have to look at the global economic divergence that took place during the 19th century. While Western nations were moving toward industrialization, building mass production factories and railway networks, the Ottoman Empire took a different path. The Ottoman leadership maintained a reliance on a traditional agrarian economy, largely ignoring the technological shifts occurring in Europe and North America. This strategy mirrored the failure seen in 19th century India, where a lack of domestic industrialization left the country vulnerable to foreign powers with more advanced military and transport technology. Without an industrial base to generate modern tax revenue or equip a modern army, the Ottoman state grew increasingly fragile, eventually becoming known as the sick man of Europe. This inability to modernize the economy directly compromised the empire's ability to protect its own borders against the mechanized forces of its rivals. When World War I broke out, the weakened Ottoman state shattered, leaving its vast territories without a central authority. Britain and France immediately stepped in to fill that void, looking to divide the Middle East into new territories under their own control. As seen in this map of the Sykes-Picot Agreement, diplomats literally used rulers to draw straight lines across the region, creating nations where none existed. These lines cut directly across the natural landscape, ignoring the locations of different tribes, ethnic groups, and religious sects. This process split unified groups apart and forced rivals together. The Kurds, for example, found themselves divided across 4 different countries, becoming a minority group in each one. We saw a similar mechanic play out in Yugoslavia, where forcing distinct ethnic groups into a single, artificial government led to decades of internal friction and eventual civil war. By prioritizing imperial convenience over local identity, mapmakers created a legacy of border disputes that continues to destabilize the region today. The fragility of these new states was further tested by the discovery of vast oil reserves, a resource that transformed the regional economy. Typically, governments rely on taxes, creating a loop where the state invests in infrastructure to keep people productive. But oil-rich states bypass citizens entirely. By selling resources directly to foreign powers, elites no longer need to develop their own population. This resource curse mirrored the development of post-colonial Africa, where wealth from raw minerals often flowed to a small group of elites, while the broader economy remained underdeveloped. In the Middle East, this wealth allowed leaders to build massive security forces and intelligence networks to maintain control without ever having to answer to their people. Consequently, the immense wealth of the region often reinforced the power of dictators instead of building a prosperous middle class. Because of its oil and its vocation, the Middle East became a high-stakes arena for superpower competition during the Cold War. The United States frequently intervened in regional politics, providing aid and military support to regimes that would guarantee a steady flow of oil to the West. At the same time, the Soviet Union armed rival groups and funded proxy wars, treating the region as a chessboard to disrupt American influence. This constant interference meant that organic attempts at internal reform were often suppressed by global powers protecting their own strategic interests. The instability of the Middle East is the result of a specific causal chain: an empire's failure to industrialize, fueled by artificial borders, the pressures of the resource curse, and a century of foreign exploitation.